Bitcoin's stabilizing, looking quite nice. And as long as that is the case, as long as it's pushing up, I might just go on to Bitcoin before I go into hype. But Bitcoin here, doing everything we kind of wanted it to do, which is stabilize, climb that wall of worry into the event, which is great. I personally have been quite bearish biased. I thought leading into the event, we might get a bit of a contrarian sell-off. We still might get that as the event comes in. We might get a pretty vicious sell-off back to 111, 112, maybe lower. That could happen. My thought is that it's just so consensus bullish. Rate cut that it's up and to the right. That there may be a market maker flush on the offering. So I'm just very, very cautious leading to these events. So yeah, that's where I see it. But ultimately, once Bitcoin's above this kind of level, back flipping above this volume support at 18,500, really the key level is 120. And I know that's waiting for a lot more price action, but that is the best way you can hedge yourself against a lot of this no man's land stuff through here. So those are the levels I'm looking at. Also, I am noting that Bitcoin is really being defended, through this region where the short-term holder cost basis sits. So if you're across on-chain data, it's around 108,000, 107,000. It's where the realized price or the average buy price, a lot of the short-term holders is hanging around that area. And it was deeply defended through here. Once you dip below the short-term holder cost basis, we tend to see a lot of panic and capitulation in the market. Maybe the ETF buyers that have come on the scene, they might panic. You see maybe investors buying Bitcoin off exchanges, they might panic because they're below, they're suddenly in unrealized losses, and they might puke and realize some of those losses. And that's generally when we see the low really get driven in. But we haven't seen that. Climb a wall of worry is really much back in. It's going to be a very interesting 48 hours. No one knows what's going to happen with the markets and price action. But I think if you keep having that longer term focus of that magnet pulling us higher in the back end of the year, which I definitely think we get, especially if the rate cutting regime's just beginning, then these kind of events don't really matter too much. You just want to look at your positioning, and if you need to be more defensive, go defensive. If you want to be more aggressive, be more aggressive. It's completely up to you. This as my cherry ripe, and there's a few that look similar to this. Solana's looking quite nice as well, which I'll bring up in a sec. I want to look at maybe let's say the big three, the most popular big three. We can go from there. But Hyperliquid, look, just as a chart, this is exactly what you want to see for continuation, all-time highs. Now, personally, I think this chart sort of warrants Hyperliquid going to $100 over time, not tomorrow, but over time. Now, why it's such a beautiful looking chart is this overhead level, the all-time high, bang, 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 flip there. So I'll just zoom in. You can just see technically that's beautiful. This resistance level finally got ripped through here. So that's acceptance above the level. We just need to see that. I guess you kind of want confirmation that level has been accepted. But when I see this, these big bold green candles through it, that tells me that this area is just no longer going to be a problem, and any pullback here is a pullback generally to be bought. So it's had a couple of really nice wicks into the 10 EMA here. Resistance now trying to flip support. So as long as it's holding above $50, Hyperliquid is really looking good, and this can really accelerate. Just moving down that high low, and then it can start to really skip away. So this for me is a really beautiful looking chart. Danger zone for me this week. Now there are a couple of charts that look very similar to this, and I was thinking Litecoin, I was looking at SEI, a few others. To my eye, and when you look at charts a lot, you kind of see when something looks really weak. Now you might think, well, she's breaking this downtrend, going back to retest, everything's honky-dory. And while that is a school of thought, this looks really weak to me. Now she's tried to break away, bit of a deviation up here, fallen back beneath this overhead resistance level, lower highs all the way down. And now we're once again flirting with this downtrend level. This looks like she wants to just drop through. That's my sense. The RSI is also indicating that it's just weak. And I guess another daily close, if we get sort of in this flirting in this region, we could get a bit of a relief bounce, but I wouldn't be surprised to see us drop back into the 280s for Aave. And again, that's just my eye. And you've got, say, Hyperliquid, which has done the different thing here. It's broken out, it's coming back, and it's holding above this crucial resistance level, which is now support, and it looks like it wants to go higher. But right now, Aave hasn't done that. It actually deviated underneath, back under resistance, and now it's getting weaker, like the bouncing ball wants to come down here.